would have picked for a honeymoon. So, it sounds like it's all Gabe's idea. However, Gabe's family gave a completely different story. They were under the impression, or either Gabe told them or they witnessed for themselves, that Tina's family didn't like Gabe. Gabe's family had invited them to dinner to get to know them, and they told them that, Tina's marrying Gabe. Gabe's not marrying us. So why do we need to get to know you? I could kind of see both sides. Gabe's family is getting offended by Tina's family. However, with Tina's family, if Gabe doesn't give a flying F about her health, then I wouldn't like him or his family either. So that I could see both sides.
Right, I agree.
Also, Gabe's family says that the scuba trip was actually Tina's idea as a college graduation gift for Gabe. Gabe's mother said that Tina told her that she wanted to see the migrating turtles for herself. So, Tina's parents didn't want her to go, so they actually refused to pay for the trip. So Gabe's grandmother was like, "No worries, baby. Grandma got it for you." And she shelled out $10,000 for the honeymoon as a gift to them. Now, I need to get on the phone and ask my Grammy, where's my 10K?
Right. Where's that at? Yeah, I agree.
I didn't get a 10K honeymoon gift. Anyways, I'm just kidding, people. So a lot of people actually gave accounts of the rehearsal dinner, and they said it was an absolute mess. They said they could feel like the tension from Tina's parents over her marrying Gabe, and that tension actually came out at the rehearsal dinner. So you know what that looks like. People describe the rehearsal as the worst rehearsal dinner they've ever seen, with most people being on edge, not speaking with each other, and Tina being like this stressed out, nervous wreck. Which I can understand because, she just wants the two families to get along. She wants
Yeah,
them
that
to
would
love Gabe as
definitely
much as
cause
she
a lot
loves
of
Gabe.
stress. Yeah, it would cause a lot
Yeah,
of
all of that would cause a lot of stress. But the wedding itself that happened on October 11th, 2003, actually went by fine. Nothing happened. No stress, no nothing. Tina and Gabe were very happy in their wedding, and the parents didn't cause a problem. So that's pretty good. So after they were married, they left for their honeymoon on October 13th, 2003. So that was only 2 days after they were married. First, they went to Sydney for a week. They visited the Sydney Opera House, they had a river cruise, and they took a trip to the zoo to see the koala bears. Now I'm wondering, and I could sound very ignorant right now, I'm wondering if that's the same zoo, what the Steve Irwing Zoo. I wonder if that's the same zoo. I'm wondering what part of Australia that zoo is. So that's just a question. Then after that, they went to Townsville. That's where they basically chose to do their diving. So they wanted to dive in this shipwreck, and it's called the wreck of the SS Yongala, which is actually a very popular destination for divers. Being that I've never dove, or yeah, dove. I've
dove.
never,
Okay,
yeah, I've
I'm
never
sorry.
dove.
But just a little segue here. Do you realize that when you were saying diving, 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 that she was diving? I don't know why I was picturing her just swimming diving. I'm not connecting that, she was learning to dive as in scuba dive. So, with that said, carry on. I just wanted to add that thought there. I mean, because it makes more sense to me now. Because you're like, well, why would she want
Oh
to? Why
my
would she want
god,
to? I don't even know if there is such a thing as competitive diving. Well, scuba diving. I don't think so.
scuba diving.
I don't think so. But when you said dive, yeah, there's competitive diving. Um, as in,
I know what you're talking about.
okay. But do you get what I'm
Diving
saying?
off the platform and not making
Yes.
a splash.
And competitive swimming and all that, but you're literally saying this is just a leisure sport that her husband was very good at and he wanted to do. And he wanted her to learn to do it as well and be a part of,
Yeah,
enjoy
scuba
that type of
diving.
right. Got it. Okay. I just had to make that clear. And
I am
by the way, the zoo that you were talking about is it's a funny word. So it's in Beerwah. So what part of Australia did they say again? Do you have the city that you're speaking
Sydney.
of?
So how far is that from Sydney?
Oh, how far is it from Sydney? It's probably way out in the bush because it's actually in Beerwah, the Steve Irwin Zoo. And who knows how far that is from
I
Sydney. Just thought
don't
I'd
know
give
where
you
that
a
is.
little fun fact. Yeah,
Well, thank you so much.
you're welcome.
So, Yeah, so I guess we settled on the word dove. So
Yes, we did.
the SS Young Gala was a passenger ship, or maybe it is, just because it sank to the bottom of the ocean doesn't mean it no longer exists. So the SS Young Gala is a passenger ship that sank in 1911. So this dive, although it's a very popular dive, is actually a very difficult one. And Gabe only had like limited open ocean experience. So remember, he had 55 hours of experience at that lake. But now, a lake and an ocean, a river and a stream, those are all completely different bodies of water. So he only had a very small amount of open ocean experience, and Tina had absolutely none. So because of this, the dive company they went through actually offered them an orientation class, and they offered them a guided dive with a dive master. But even though this was the safest way to go, both Gabe and Tina said no. So they had the option to do it, and they were like, "No, we got this. We don't have any experience, and open water is very dangerous, but we got this. We can do this. Love conquers all." On the morning of October 22nd, 2003, Gabe and Tina went out on their dive. The company, before they went back in, the company asked them again if they wanted a dive master. But they very, very adamantly said no, they did not. They wanted to dive together, and they just wanted to enjoy their dive as a couple on their honeymoon. So on that day, the weather actually was really nice, and the only worry the company had was that at that particular time there was a very strong current, which I'm telling you right now, if I'm going into ocean, number one, if I'm going into ocean, number two, I don't have ocean diving experience, and number three, you're telling me there's a current. Let's pack this up. So the dive's over. So let's go back to that zoo.
Yeah.
I saw very
Yes, let's see the koala
nice
bears.
lizards at that zoo.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they ended up going in for their dive, but they both came back up because Gabe said he had something wrong with his dive computer. They came back up, they spoke with the diving instructors, they fixed that, and then they went ahead and went on their second dive. But by the time they went on their second dive, there were no more issues with the current. I just really can't believe they went on their first dive when a strong current was there, and the dive company allowed that to happen, and didn't, knowing they don't have any experience in open ocean, knowing there's a strong current, and they didn't send them with a dive instructor, the dive company just really, really, really took
It's
a
very responsible.
horrible risk. Like,
Yeah.
oh my God, yeah. So, anyways, so by the time they went on their second dive, there were no more issues with the current. So Gabe and Tina went in for their dive, and about 30 seconds later, the dive master and another team of scuba divers went in. So there were other people there, and of course, they wanted the dive master with them. So Gabe and Tina wanted to do their own thing, and then dive master went in 30 seconds later with the other team of divers. The dive master said they were in the water for about 6 or 7 minutes when he realized there was a diver. Like, he looked over and he saw a diver who was kind of lying away from the wreck, and the diver was on the seafloor. So he was just looking like, I don't even want to try an Australian accent, but I guess
Give it a shot.
to keep it consistent, Kai has to try an Australian accent.
You guys got to go for it.
So, good Lord,
Don't forget to
please
say mate somewhere in
be
there.
gentle and shrimp on the Barbie.
Just don't forget to say mate. Everything is
Okay.
mate. Go ahead. Go for it.
So,
1, 2,
people
3.
in the comments, our listeners in the comments, please be kind to Kai. Just be kind to me. So, anyways, the dive master, he was looking around and he saw this diver, and they were on the seafloor. And so he was like, oh my God, what's that diver doing?
Oh my God. Oh, wow. Wah, wah, wah. Where are our sound effects when we need them? Oh my God.
I
It
have
wasn't really
to.
that
I
bad.
have
It
to.
was
So,
bad. It wasn't that bad. It was bad. And you didn't even throw mate in there. At least if you said, "Ready, mate." If you just say the word mate, it sounds like you're sounding more like an Aussie. But I'm like, okay, no.
oh my God. You know
But it was a
who's
good
really good
time.
at accents? My brother. My brother could switch accents like crazy. But anyway, so I'm gonna have to try it. We keep consistent. In every episode, I do the accent of the person,
At
so we gonna
least
do it.
once.
Y'all gonna stick with me. This is what I'm doing. So anyway, Dive Master said, "What's that diver doing? Where's that diver's body? I don't see any bubbles."
I think he started putting that. I think I started putting that. That reminds me of like a cartoon animation. I mean, but I like cartoons. Oh
Oh
my
my
god,
god.
that's hilarious.
So yeah, that was his Australian accent. I think he was from Detroit, but he moved to Australia and he just really tried hard.
Right, of
But
course.
anyways, so that's when he realized that something was wrong and he swam over and he saw that it was Tina. And when he saw that, he hurried up and took her back to the surface. Now, on the other hand, you might be asking, well, where the hell is Gabe? So, the divers on the surface were getting ready to go back down when they noticed that Gabe was sitting there just, looking like really flustered. Like, what the fuck? So they looked around and they're like, hey, Gabe, where's Tina? And he said, yeah, she didn't come up. And they're like, what? What do you mean she didn't come up? What happened? And he said she was overweighted and panicking and flailing, and she knocked his mask off and knocked out his regulator out of his mouth. So that's the thing that goes in your mouth. And by the time he got his mask and everything back on, she was sinking feet first. So just imagine like her feet are down, like she's standing up, so, and she's just going straight down. So she was sinking feet first while staring at him. And so the dive master, here goes my Australian accent again. But anyway, so the dive master who was on the surface just looked at him and was like, Gabe, mate, you left her. And then Gabe was like, well, I mean, I had to go get assistance. And the dive master was like, no, mate, that's not what you did. That's a little bit better.
Actually, you're getting better. You're
So,
improving with age. So carry on.
so witnesses at the time, including Dr. Stanley Stutz, said that they saw Gabe engaged in an underwater bear hug. So they saw him like
Like a high five,
in an
probably.
underwater bear hug with his wife. High five, bear hug. Do you know what a bear hug is?
No, I thought it was fake. I thought it was a cover up, or maybe, maybe with one of his colleagues or something. He's like, hey, yeah, you know, okay, so never mind. Once again, I'm a little off.
No.
Okay, so basically,
Listen,
okay, so
listen.
it looks as if everything's great down there, and they're the loving, newlywed couple, and he's giving her a hug. And if you're under 1,000 feet of water, I guess it would be a bear hug because it would take a whole lot of force, wouldn't you think, to hug 1,000 feet below?
Well, I don't really think that's what they saw was, newlyweds engaged in a hug. They just said while they were under there with Gabe and them, they said they saw him engaging in an underwater bear hug and his wife was flailing around. And then suddenly he just headed to the surface. So he went up, Tina went down. That's what they saw.
Okay, well, you
So
didn't
by
give
the
that
time the
part
dive
that
master,
you said bear hug, and that was that we didn't hear the fact that she was flailing around like a fish. That means there's something wrong. Obviously, she probably couldn't breathe.
well, we didn't get to that part because you were saying high five, and I was like, what the hell are you talking about?
Right.
So by the time the dive master had gotten Tina back to the surface, she had actually been underwater for 10 minutes. And of course, as any rational and sane person would do, they tried to resuscitate her and they actually tried for like 40 minutes, but she ended up passing away. One day after she died, a professor named David Williams, he was a consultant for the forensic pathologist to the Queensland coroner, he did her autopsy. In her autopsy, they found bruising that was due to trying to resuscitate. So when you try and resuscitate, all on the chest and everything, because you're pressing hard. It's not like you see on TV, they're pressing very softly. You're pressing hard. So you're going to have bruises. You might crack a rib and everything like that. So in the autopsy, they found this kind of bruising and they found an air embolism, which was probably due to how fast she surfaced with the dive instructor. So if you know anything about diving, which I know like just a bare minimum. When you dive, you're supposed to come up at a certain rate. You can't come up very quickly because the nitrogen in your body expands or some crap like that, and then you get an air embolism and you could die.
Mhm.
So they found that in her.